Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is a show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, we get to talk about everything in between. However you're listening, wherever you're watching, you know exactly what to do. I need a 5-star review. I need a like and a subscribe. I need you to go to the YouTube page and watch me and my beautiful mustache, along with my incredible guest today, who is Zach Doctor, co-founder, CEO of WagerWire. Zach, how you doing today, man?
Doing great, doing great. Yeah, really appreciate you having me on and kind of welcoming me into your community you've been building here.
Hey, man, it's been a lot of fun. I want to say you're episode 318, 319, so there's a lot of cool people. So if anyone I've had on the show previously, I usually do this after the show, but who cares? Anybody I've had on the show previously, you want to talk to them? Let me know, man. I'm your guy. I like connecting people. I'm a
Very
connector.
cool.
What can I say? That's what we do.
Appreciate that. Very cool.
Got
Yeah.
you, man. Got you. But as I said, co-founder, CEO of WagerWire, Zach, I'm very excited to talk about this product. As we were saying, I've been in the betting space for a couple years now. You've been in there for a little while as well. Now you're out in sunny Los Angeles, so things might be a little different out there. But we're doing things. We're moving and shaking in the sports industry. This is my favorite. These are my favorite conversations to have. But Zach, the first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
Man, yeah, great question. I think like a lot of people, I started loving sports as a kid. I was playing soccer, playing baseball, playing basketball, eventually, and, playing some football in high school. Ultimately it's that competition, but it's also the entertainment of it. I just think it's like sports are a really great narrative. You've got, you got the start, middle, and finish. You got the dramatic overtime games. You've got just this great entertainment vehicle, really, at the end of the day. I grew up in the Bay Area, even though I am in LA now, kind of hence the Kaepernick jersey up there behind me. And I think the time I grew up was a good heyday of sports in the Bay Area. We had kind of the tail end of the Steve Young, Jerry Rice era with 49ers going on. And then the Giants had Barry Bonds. Like, I remember going to, Pac Bell Park back then when it was first getting minted and we were, seeing splash hits and everything. So really just from a young age been passionate about sports. And then that's transition, as I get older now and I'm looking at it as my career now. It's just been more interesting from like diving into the business side of it all too. So it's definitely been kind of like an evolution of my journey with sports for sure.
Yeah, don't forget about that even year bullshit with the Giants for a couple years as well. I'm a Mets fan, so I'm still a little salty about 2017. Connor, who the hell is that guy and why is he on the field? But anyway, we don't need to divulge too much into that. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I think, sports is such a great narrative for business as well, as you said. Like, you have the entertainment narrative, but you have that competition. Mm-hmm. Where does that competition come from you? Why was sports this next ground, this next piece of business that you wanted to conquer?
Yeah, it definitely played into it. I am a little bit of a competitive guy. I wouldn't say I'm, necessarily, the most competitive person in the world, but I've also had this in kind of my background too. Like, I actually had entrepreneurship through a bicycle tire company as a kid that got me kind of into the business side of sports, where when I was just 12 years old and my older brother was 14, we started selling bike tires on eBay, of all places. My dad was in a bicycle group in the Bay Area, and they had a big shipment of tires that they would order from Europe, and one year it came in the wrong color, and they didn't want to put them on their bikes, so we just sold them on eBay. We doubled our money, and all of a sudden, we had this kind of light bulb moment where, hey, we should just be ordering boxes of tires over here and then selling them. And so that kind of got me into the business side and sports and all this with the passion for that. And that grew, and that actually grew into a company that my family still runs today, BikeTiresDirect.com and WesternBikeWorks.com. It was really just a crazy journey to be on as a teenager too. We would have pallets of tires getting delivered to our house and filling up our driveway with boxes, and we would pack orders before school and go to the post office to drop them off, at 7:30 in the morning on our way to school. So I've just kind of had this mix of sports and business and everything kind of from a very young age. And then I've just wanted to get back into it, ever since, really. And this has just been the perfect opportunity. I am also a sports bettor myself, just, out of being a fan and watching the games. And so this opportunity to kind of get into the industry from the sports betting side of things has really been kind of a dream come true and a perfect opportunity.
That is awesome, man. What a great story. You and your brother that young making a couple bucks. I mean, we've all sold something on eBay, right? I don't know. Do people still use eBay anymore? I honestly have no idea if that's like, it's not what it used to be, but I used
But
to sell like headphones on eBay. I used to sell all that shit and it was awesome, man. It
yeah,
was so cool. Then you're actually paying attention to margins. You're like, well, if I sell it for 30 bucks, but it takes an extra $10 to ship it, then does this really make sense? Like, how does the math work here? So
exactly.
it was always cool. And yeah, at a super young age, it sounds like you and your brother were able to take advantage of that. Shout out to your dad and
Yeah, for sure.
his bike gang, not wanting the wrong color tires. To each his own, but clearly it led you guys down a good path. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear it, man. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, I mean it was a wild experience, really. I mean, it was to the point where we'd literally have the 1-800 number like forwarding to our cell phones, and we'd have to hop out of class,
No
and we'd
shit,
have to
that's
hop out
awesome.
of class to do customer service calls and things like that. And then by the time it got to kind of my high school years, it was like too big for us to be doing on our own anymore, and we started bringing
Hmm.
employees in and got a whole warehouse and set up the websites and everything. So, yeah, really just got me that entrepreneurial spirit of seeing something go from zero to one, and just every step along the way. Obviously, a very different business than I'm working on now. That's kind of a wholesale, buying tires wholesale, selling them retail kind of business. And now I'm working on a tech startup, but it definitely inspired me to get back into this.
That is sweet, man. I'm happy to hear. And as you said, like, how cool is it that you get to work in sports now? It's most people that I talk to, at least, it's their number one passion, right? It's the team that they root for. It's their fantasy football team. It's all of these things. And sports betting specifically has given so many people an opportunity to start working in sports. Right before, if are you going to be an agent or are you going to sell tickets?
Hmm.
Which do you want to do, Zach? Well, sorry, man, I don't want to do either of those because you're not going to make any money. Selling tickets, you're going to get burnt out. And if you're not like as if you're not cut out to be a sports agent, you're not cut out to be a sports agent. There's nothing wrong with that. Shout out to the guys and girls that are. But now with sports betting, and as you said, as a tech startup, right? Like, we're mostly just a bunch of tech companies that are doing some really cool stuff in a really cool industry. And I remember my first meeting when I was at Caesars, and we were just talking about this was the national championship game, NCAA national championship game from a couple years ago. It was like, yeah, we really need Baylor tonight because most of the money's on Gonzaga. And I was just like, shit. So this is my career now. Like, literally talking about how we need the underdog to win. Like, that's a
Hmm.
pretty cool opportunity. So I'm extremely, extremely grateful for it, and I'm sure you are. So yeah, tell us a little bit about WagerWire, what you guys are doing in the betting space, how you're changing it up a little bit.
Awesome. No, yeah, that's a cool story too of your past in the industry too. Yeah, so WagerWire is a marketplace for sports bets, and what we're doing is bringing this concept that exists in a lot of other industries of a secondary market of being able to sell your property, sell your asset to another person on the other side of the equation, and we're bringing that to the sports betting industry. And so this our system will allow people to sell their bet before the end of the game, before the end of the season. You can do really interesting things once you have that kind of new optionality unlocked, where you might place some futures at the beginning of the NFL year on a handful of teams, and then manage those throughout the season. And you could see your team go on a hot streak, sell half of that ticket, get your initial buy-in back, and have all the rest of the upside risk free. And so it's all about this kind of like new optionality that we're trying to bring for the users. I think it's a better way to hedge your bets on is one way to think about it. Like, you don't have to put additional capital up on the other side. You can instead sell your bet or sell part of your bet and manage it that way. But I also think it's like a new way to kind of speculate, a new way to engage, a new way to play the game, where now you're trying to buy low and sell high on bets. You're just trying to ride momentum on certain teams or in certain games. And maybe you don't even want to hold the bet to the end. You actually place it in the beginning, like expecting to sell it at some point. And that's kind of the mentality that we're trying to drive here. It's a little bit of the StockX mentality or the StubHub of like you're flipping your bet, you're flipping your tickets, you're flipping your Jordans on StockX. Maybe you've got a Coinbase account and you've got a Robinhood account. Like, we think WagerWire fits right in there into that same kind of user experience, and should be right next to your phone, right next to those apps on your phone too, where now you can be kind of treating your bets like assets too.
I love that. And that's exactly what they are, right? You listen to or talk to any professional sports bettor, they'll pretty much tell you it's a portfolio, right? Especially when you're talking about futures. That's the word that they use. I was in finance for a little bit. You were in finance for a lot of it, and we'll get to that in a minute
Mm-hmm.
here. But I think it's such a cool concept. And I've heard this a little bit in the industry. This is not the first time I've heard about this type of concept, but it seems like you guys are doing it in a slightly different way, which I think is pretty cool. And I think that the opportunity is huge, right? With so many more states legalizing, right? We just saw Massachusetts legalized the other day. Ohio is going to be fully online in a couple months here. Kansas is going to be coming up here in a couple months. Like, the opportunity is now, I think, 36 states deep plus DC. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of cool things going on, and specifically with futures bets, like, I love betting futures. It is so much fun. Now, I don't put too many dollars on them, as I might have told you before, but at the same time, like, hey, if there's a way that you can bet, I think I have the Ravens preseason to win the Super Bowl, 20-1. All right, well, what happens if they have the best record in the NFL week 11? Maybe I want to get off that. Maybe there's an opportunity there. So I guess, where does this idea come from? Was it an awesome futures bet you had that lost, but you wish you were able to sell on? Like, where does the idea from WagerWire come from?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, you're definitely right about the idea with the Ravens bet there, where you could be, maybe you don't necessarily think they're going to win it all, but you think they could start hot, and then you have an asset that's kind of in the money, and you have optionality to do with it. I do think that's a great use case. Actually, the origin of the idea was actually not around a future. It was actually more about wanting to buy into a friend's bet and trying to understand how that could work and to try to ride a bet together. So I was sitting on the couch, as most good business ideas do. It started on a couch with my friends, and we were watching an NFL.
Couple beers,
Maybe. This was probably back in 2018, maybe 2019. I think it was just before PASPA, actually, so it was probably 2018. And we're watching, an NFL game, and I had placed a bet on the line at -3 before it started. My friend comes in, who's now my co-founder, Travis Geiger, comes into the room halfway through the first quarter. The line had already moved to -7 because, the Packers had jumped out to a lead. But he didn't want to bet -7. He didn't want to take the live line. He wanted to get in on the original bet that I had so we could kind of ride it together. And that was actually the genesis moment of, hey, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's a way where we could buy into each other's bets, and there could be a marketplace, a secondary market for bets. And we really just start, pulling on that string and start to think about it. And then, PASPA gets overturned not far after that. And at that point, we really started putting some more serious thought into it and actually kind of putting a little bit of a business plan idea around it. So that's really how it started. Actually, it was more from the social side, which I think we haven't talked about yet, but I think that's a big use case for us too. Is we're trying to drive this socialization of sports betting a little bit more. A lot of the sports betting experience is you versus the sports book. It's a very one versus the book kind of mentality. And but at the end of the day, we're watching sports together with our friends. We're doing it. It's an entertainment value, like we said in the beginning. So, we think that our system can actually bring a lot of that social aspect to it as well.
Yeah, and I think the social aspect goes even a little bit further than that, right? Like, as you said, you're sitting on the couch with your friends. You don't want to be the asshole that's on the other side, right? I hate being that guy, because then you can't say anything, because you got 5 friends in a room and 4 of them are riding the same bet, and you're like, actually, I had the +3, not the -3. Sorry, guys. So everyone loves a good heel every once in a while, but you don't want to ever be that guy. So I would even go a step further and saying it's kind of one versus many, right? It's that book versus everybody else. It's that, hey, we're going to take down the big guy, David versus a lot of Davids versus Goliath. And I think that the social aspect of it is really what's driving so much of the sports betting industry, where hashtag gambling Twitter, go sit on there for a Sunday on 1 o'clock on a Sunday for the NFL games. It gets pretty crazy. A lot of people are doing a lot of things, and it's a lot of fun, right? And it's that aspect that we all can get in on it together, because it's always interesting, right? You feel worse about the bet that you didn't place than placing the bet and losing. Right, you kind of have that FOMO aspect to it, and I think the social aspect is going to be fun. And as you said, you guys give an opportunity, right? Maybe I get that Ravens bet, my buddy doesn't. Well, halfway through the season, hey man, the odds are now X. Why don't you pay me Y, and we can get it on together? Yep. So I think that there's a lot of cool opportunity. I guess specifically, what makes you guys different, and what are you doing differently than some of your competitors who have been doing this thing for a few years now, especially out in Vegas?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, I think we actually have a lot of respect and admiration for what those guys are doing, because they're kind of paving the way for this concept and evangelizing it out there and getting it into the public consciousness of now you can sell your bet. What we're doing differently is that we're really treating this as a B2B tech play at the end of the day, and we are bringing this solution to the sportsbook operators. We're partnering with sportsbook operators, Our system is actually an integrated solution where we will be plugging in with operators and the platforms that they run on so that you can do real-time trading of online and mobile bets and actually have, settlement of those trades into your sportsbook account. So that kind of sets us apart. We realized, and that was also an evolution of the idea. Like when we first had the idea, it was very much for this kind of peer-to-peer marketplace. And then we realized that although it is a cool solution for the users, obviously, that's where this all starts. We're also helping to solve problems for sports books in this industry. And there are some big challenges that the books are running into right now that I'm sure you're aware of is, customer acquisition costs are kind of out of control right now. They've been doing these crazy sign-up bonuses when they start in every state. Like I think when New York went legal, they were doing $3,000 deposit matches. But then there's no, yeah, yeah, but there's not really any loyalty from the user's perspective. A lot of times they just bonus hop to the next place as soon as they kind of use up the free cash. So by plugging in WagerWire and also by using our actual plug-in version where a sportsbook could have bet trading functionality right in their app, this is a way for them to kind of differentiate their product, try to innovate and try something new, and bring a new way to engage and interact with their user base to the market. And then we're also part of their like customer acquisition funnel to some extent too, where if I want to buy your bet and you use that Caesar example, like if it's a Caesar's bet, then the person is going to have to sign up for a Caesar's account if they don't have one already. So both the buyer and the seller have to have a sportsbook account. And so we are bringing people, new users into the ecosystem as well. And it's kind of like a unique way to get people engaged and brought in.
I think that's an awesome way of thinking about it because, yeah, the sports books are having problems, right? I mean, they're going to be fine. They're casino companies, guys. Let's not cry over a sports book losing money. But at the same time, no, I think it's a really interesting way of thinking about it because here I was sitting assuming that this was more of a B2C product where you guys would have you would be eBay, right? You go back to your original your original business you started, you would be the eBay and people could do what they wanted. You guys grab a commission and it's good to go. I think this is a cooler way of going about it because now you're really plugged in, right? Now there's no legal bullshit you have to go through because that was one of my questions too. Like, well, what if you're not in a legal state? Then do you have to be? And now if it's just straight through Caesars, DraftKings, FanDuel, whomever, you're going to have to be on that app. There's going to be a secondary market. I assume DraftKings would be the most into this potential idea because they're always looking for new things. So you don't have to shake your head, blink once, blink twice, whatever you want to do. But yeah, I think like that's a really cool way of going about it, and is going to really fix some of those problems. I guess, what have you guys seen so far? I know you're not live yet,
That's right. That's right. And I would just jump in here too because like we have both. We really are. We're a B2B to C is one way to think of us. We are going to have WagerWire.com, and you can already go to our website and kind of sign up for the wait list. We're going to have on WagerWire. There's going to be bets from all of our partners trading. It'll be kind of like the aggregated marketplace. Then if you go to the in sportsbook side of the house, you're just going to have bets from that book kind of trading on the internal marketplace. But it's an interconnected, it's one marketplace engine that powers both. So if you're in your favorite sportsbook app and you post your bet for sale from within there, it'll also pop up and be available to buy on the WagerWire side. And that's where I think we drive the most value for both users as well as for the books. I think if you love your sportsbook experience and you just want to stick to your book, then by all means, now you can have this functionality inside of that app. If you want to kind of play around and have more advanced features and analytics and portfolio tracking and this kind of stuff going on, you would head over to the WagerWire side and you could, tap into some of those more advanced features. You could also buy bets from other sports books on there. It's going to be kind of like the aggregated side of the house.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that also makes sense, giving that opportunity to, and again, that then leads back into the user acquisition, right? Someone sees that all these bets are over on one place. It's going to be an easy funnel for you to get a couple bucks to the affiliate marketing revenue that, hey, they go right over there. I run the affiliate program at Profit Exchange, so pretty familiar with some of this stuff, which I think is fun. I'm curious why you guys? I know you said your founding team, you guys have been friends for just a couple years now. You guys, I know obviously you've done some incredible stuff. I know you have some data wizards on your team as well. What is it about the three of you, if there's more, I apologize, that you believe you're the three people to really be able to solve this problem for such a new budding industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it's the three co-founders, myself, Travis Geiger, and Guy Doughton. like you said. I think we just all bring a really unique skill set to the table here. So we were all UCLA buddies going way back, and have been friends ever since. And really, I come from the business side and the finance side, and I'm kind of overseeing all of our business development efforts, our fundraising, kind of operations and business. I wear a lot of hats, obviously. Travis is our creative mind. He was a director by trade, actually. Worked in Hollywood for 10 years on some really cool projects. And he's basically overseeing our marketing and our branding and our user experience. And then Guy brings the sports data and data science and product experience. And he's worked in the industry actually before. He's worked at Stats LLC. He worked at Gum Gum Sports. So basically with that combination, we think that we're really well positioned to take this to the next level. I think, what this idea has that's kind of unique about it is it has like a natural virality to it. You see these bets that are, a 10-leg parlay that's 8 legs through, and someone will tweet about it, and then all of a sudden it gets picked up just into kind of like the normal news flow of sports, and there'll be an ESPN chalk article, or it'll get picked up in Action Network or whatever it is. So we're really poised to just kind of like tap into this natural virality that the idea has. But then with the distribution of going with the sportsbook operators, I think that combination is what will really, set this apart.
Yeah, I think you guys are hitting this from many different angles. It's super cool to have a Hollywood director on your staff. Just to say that alone is cool, right? But like the actual use of that, I think, is really important when it comes to branding and understanding and marketing. As long as his brain works the way it sounds like it does, I think that's a really interesting person to have on the staff for that specific ability alone, which is just super cool. Plus, he probably also knows a bunch of rich people, so maybe you guys, get a couple extra bucks funding. Who the hell cares, right? Not a big deal. And I think so. I have a million different questions I want to ask. We'll start with you. Then I want to get to the data aspect of what you guys are doing, because I saw some really cool things in your website. But as you said, you have a background in finance. You worked at PNC for a couple minutes, made it up to VP by 26. Not a big deal. Like why? It sounds like you were, I don't know, don't want to put my hand in another man's pocket. It sounds like you're doing pretty good for yourself, right? Having a good time, doing work it sounds like you might have liked. Why now? Why this time? Why leave something comfortable and cushy to go start a little tech company out there and out there in the valley?
It's a good question, and one that my parents certainly asked.
Oh, I'm sure.
No, but I think it really came down to passion. I mean, look, PNC was a great place to work. I started there right after school. It's a really cool place to go. It's not quite the like cutthroat world of like the Wall Street investment banking world, but you get to see so many different industries. What I was doing there was basically senior secured loans for private equity buyouts. So we would have a lot of private equity clients. They would be going around buying companies in like the middle market. So these are, usually industrial companies, things like that, manufacturers. But then also we had a tech side of the house as well that would do like SaaS-based technology companies. And then we would, the sponsor would be buying the company, and we would put up the debt for that, and we would have to structure it all. We would do proposals to them for the interest rates that we can do and the closing fees, and it was a very competitive process to win these deals. And then we would also then, like, once we got a deal in the pipeline, I would be overseeing the entire process till it closes, where you're looking over all these different work streams of the due diligence that we're doing, the underwriting, all of this, and then ultimately present that to a committee to get the investment committee to say yes. And actually, it was surprisingly comparable to like kind of what the day to day of a CEO is, really. Like, you're overseeing all these different work streams, and working towards a common goal, and then just kind of making sure that everything's on track, and then ultimately going out and fundraising and doing things like that. So it was great experience actually for the pivot that I ended up making. At the time, I just kind of knew, like, when I actually left PNC was late 2019, so kind of right before COVID hit, actually. But at the time, I just kind of knew that if I didn't take the leap, this would never happen, and someone else would do it, and I would be kicking myself for the rest of my life if I didn't give it a shot, at least. So that was really the motivation. Ultimately, I mean, it was a bit of a leap. I had to basically go 2+ years without a paycheck and kind of run on the savings, and it was a little bit of a departure of the lifestyle I had gotten used to as well from working in banking. So definitely a decision I didn't take lightly, but I also just knew that it was this kind of, once in a lifetime opportunity to give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, if you kick that much ass at your job, I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to get one again, doing the exact same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
why not, right? As you said, you were young, you didn't have kids, probably no wife at the time, I'm assuming. Why not? The opportunity's there, take it, run with it. And yeah, PassFit just got repealed, so all of these little companies are going to be popping up in the betting space, and thankfully you guys are one of them because you're doing some pretty cool stuff. So I think, like, what are you alluded to it a little bit, but I'd love to dive a little bit deeper. Like, what are some of the things that you learned from, I guess, finance and I guess your role specifically that you've been able to kind of pull over? Like, what are some of those lessons? What are some of those things that you learned? Again,
Yeah.
you said some of them, but I'd like to go a little deeper on what you learned over there that you were able to, that surprisingly you found out are very applicable to what you're doing over here at a
Yeah,
tech
I think the
startup.
biggest thing was just being able to, stay very organized across a lot of different work streams that are going on, and just keep that all, in your head straight, and then dealing with each of the teams individually, and being able to also manage people. I think that's a big part of this. Like, when you first start a startup, you're doing everything, right? The three founders, we're wearing every hat, we're doing everything. We're trying to figure out the legal side, we're trying to figure out the business side, we're doing the business development, all this stuff. But now we've gone kind of like one stage further where we do have a team around us. We're up to 11 people on the team, and it becomes like a stage of just empowering the people that are around you to do the best job that they can. And a big part of that is kind of trusting them to be able to do what they're doing and not micromanage, but then like be able to oversee all of this and make sure that we're all kind of converging on a common goal together. So I'd say that's probably like the biggest skill set. It was more of like a
I love it, man.
qualitative skill set even than like the quantitative. Although being able to run a financial projection and a cash flow statement and that type of stuff obviously is kind of table stakes too to some degree.
Yes, that's just very important,
Hmm.
especially when you're trying
Hmm.
to get funding. I'm sure those guys want to know exactly all those dollars and cents. So I think that's pretty cool, man. I think it's really important that people. One thing I always love to talk about is people that come in kind of through the side into this industry, right? If you don't start in this industry, well, how'd you get here? And I think you have a very interesting story and a very unique way of going about it. Obviously, starting your own company is not going to be for everybody, but understanding what people can take from their previous life, from their previous jobs, how they're able to apply it in creative and interesting ways is going to get more people into this industry, and I want to do that as much as possible. I have a book, Winning in Sports Business. It's free. It's down in the show notes. Go check it out if anyone is there, on how to get a job in sports. So I think, obviously love your story, and I think that's a pretty important one to go about it. Back to the company a little bit. We were talking about your one co-founder who's a data wizard. I think that's really interesting. I was looking at the website, and you guys are going to give those essentially, and please just make sure I'm saying everything correctly and you correct anything that I'm wrong on. You guys are going to give, hey, this future is probably worth this now, and this is how much you should probably sell it for, and this is what the expected EV on something like this is at this point. How do you guys come up with those numbers? How do you look at those markets and say, this is what we think it is, this is what we think the asking price should be? Well, if someone wants to pay more, that's more willing. If no one's willing to pay that, they're going to pay less. It's a free market, right? But like, how do you guys come up with those numbers to give the users on the platform just all the necessary information to be equipped to actually make the best
Yep.
decisions
Yeah.
for
So
them?
we do have. Yeah, we're going to run suggested prices. So when a seller wants to post their bet for sale, we'll give them a suggested price of what we think is a fair price that'll clear the market. Also, on the flip side of that, for the buyers, we're giving every bet a deal score. So when they're browsing the marketplace, we'll kind of inform them whether this is a good offer, compared to really what it is doing at the end of the day is comparing that to the probability of that event happening. But the easiest proxy for that is usually just the consensus odds line. Like, we're in a whole industry. We're in a whole industry of
Yeah.
sports betting companies that are all working very hard to figure out what the line should be on certain events. So we can piggyback on their work and say, hey, this is our starting point. This is what the consensus odds are. The Packers were, maybe 10-1 at the start of the year. Now they're 5-1. And if you know what that odds are now, you can kind of work backwards and crunch the numbers and say what you think a fair price would be for that bet. Now there are a lot of other little nuances and stuff that get baked into it, into our kind of proprietary system there. But fundamentally, it starts with that. If you know what the odds are for that bet now today, then you can kind of work off of that and say and try to estimate what the price should be.
Yeah, I think obviously odds are just probabilities and different numbers, right? We here in the United States use like the funkiest odd system. Now that's all we know, but it's a little easier in other countries around the world, thankfully. So, but I think it's pretty darn cool, and I think that the opportunity for people to, because no one wants to feel like they're getting scammed, right? Well, I had a 1,000, I had a 10-to-1 ticket. Now it's 5-to-1. Does that mean I sell half of it? Is that how it works? Like, if you guys are there and able and capable of being able to show people exactly how it works and why it works, as you said, without all the secret sauce, I think that's just going to help the users be happier and be able to expand the
That's exactly right.
platform
I mean,
even
that's what
further.
we look at this as, is really a tool to help inform the users. You know, what's interesting about our model is that we don't really have a horse in the race. We don't care whether the bet wins or loses. We're not a sports book ourselves. We're not like underwriting the risk or anything like that. So we really are here to just help you find a fair price and to have a buyer and a seller that can meet and find a price that is appealing to both of them. And so that's where that's our focus with that. It's not like something, where we're trying to persuade you to do one thing or the other, because at the end of the day, we just want transactions to go through. We want sellers to have good experiences. We want buyers to have good experiences. And, I think the suggested prices and the deal scores are a big part of that. And then we're working on some other features too that I think could be some pretty cool things that we should be being able to roll out, like some things like, like a limit order where you could say, if this bet gets to this price, then I would pull the trigger. And being able to put in some things like that allow you to also get a little more creative and do other things, have more optionality as a buyer or a seller too.
That would be pretty darn cool, especially as a seller to that, or as a buyer. Like, seeing that might be a little different, but like as a seller, it's like, yeah, like if this ever gets to X, like let's sell it. And I think that could be, again, just like a cool, interesting way for people to take advantage of this industry, because it's only going to get more interesting, right? There's only going to be cooler companies and different things that pop up that allow users to take advantage of the thing that they love most, which is watching sports and getting entertainment out of it. Now,
Right.
have a couple
And
bucks in
yeah,
the
and we
game.
don't
Why
want to
not,
lose
right?
sight of that. Like ultimately people are here because they love sports, they love to bet on sports, and so we think that this is just a more engaging way to get involved. Your future bet that, normally you just kind of set it at the start of the year and you forget about it. Now it's something that you really can pay attention to, and you can log in and see whether your bets are up or down today. And that's kind of like a new way to think about sports betting. And then I also think, there's no reason you couldn't sell your bet at halftime and buy it back in the third quarter and actually use this system like during the game too. I'm a huge Warriors fan, and in that finals series, like we would have these crazy third quarter runs every time. So if you were a Celtics bettor, you could sell your bet at halftime and then buy it back at the end of the third and dodge that brutal third quarter that's always coming. So it just kind of gives you like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah,
get
yeah.
better odds, right? Like that's the thing. Like you could sell it at a high, buy
Hmm.
at a low. That's what we're trying to do, right? And then the opportunity is even bigger. I actually had Warriors to win the
Hey,
championship preseason. Shout out to my man Ghost for feeding me that one. So I made a couple bucks on that. So thank you for all that you did, Zach, in
very nice, very
helping my
nice.
bet
Yeah,
cash.
that was
So
probably
I want
decent
to say
odds.
thank you
That
for
was
that
probably
one.
decent odds at that time because
I
I worked
love it,
paid.
man.
Yeah,
Plus 1,300, yeah, plus 1,300 at the time. So yeah, I'm not angry
I
about it. I
think you
probably
could.
could have sold it for a couple bucks. That's all. I wouldn't. I had to hold it on. My buddy told me about it. I would have felt like an ass if I sold it. But the option was there now that I know, and I think that part's pretty interesting. So you brought something up, and now I'm kind of curious. You're not a sports book, so you don't make money on any of these bets. How do you guys make money though? Because the more you guys got to make money to stay in
Yeah,
business, right?
although a
Last I
lot of
heard.
tech companies tried not doing that, and so and it worked for a while. Although recently they've been getting beat up for
Yes.
that. No, we do have a revenue model. We are going to be charging a transaction fee on every trade. That will be baked right into the price. So the price you see on the site is the price you pay. We're not going to hide a fee behind anything like that.
Hmm.
So there's a small transactional piece to this, and then you hit on it before, where we're an affiliate to our sportsbook partners too. So when we're bringing new users into the sports books, then we can get that affiliate referral fee, and so that's a big part of our revenue model too.
Very cool. Yeah, that could definitely be very helpful. I think the commission or aspect of it
Mhm.
is, again, just going back to eBay, man. 12-year-old Zach would be so proud, man. I'm sure he would be so proud of what you've been able to do and how you've been able to take this model of buying and selling something. It's like, well, let's just do it on the grandest possible scale in the coolest industry in the world. So I think that part is pretty cool. I guess so we talked a little bit about the legality around you guys would be working with just regulated books and regulated markets. How does it work for you guys though? Do you need sportsbook licensing in these states? Are you guys just like a third party? Like I'm just kind of curious because this is an industry I'm very interested in. Like how does that work for you guys? Like what are you considered in the eyes of
No, yeah,
the
good question. Good
NJDG,
question.
let's say?
So we're not considered a sports book because of kind of what I said before. We're not creating new risk. We're not underwriting that risk. We don't have a, we don't care whether the bets win or lose. But we are a supplier to the sports books, right? We are integrating to their software. So the way we're viewed is either as a vendor or a supplier, depending on the state. Kind of, they have different terminologies and different levels, but basically, we do have to get licensing in every state. It's just much easier to get than a sportsbook license. But there is, product testing that goes along with that, of testing the integrations. Like we do have to kind of go through the normal hoops of what a technology provider would need to do. And we have been, in talks with the DGE. We're moving through their process right now, actually. So yeah, it's been going pretty well, and I've become kind of like a little de facto expert of the regulatory situation in the States just by necessity, really. But we think that if we, as we set precedent in New Jersey, that a lot of the other states will follow too.
That is normally the case. We did it first, we did it best, and we're still doing it over here in New Jersey. So always love seeing that, man. But Zach, this is super cool. I think the opportunity is really interesting. I think again, this industry is just going to have so many awesome companies, and I think yours is one of them. So obviously, rooting very hard for you guys. Where can people learn more? Where can they sign up for that waiting list? Where can they follow you guys on all the socials and everything?
Appreciate your enthusiasm for what we're building here. Yeah, we're really excited to get this out to market. So yeah, users can go to WagerWire.com and they can sign up for the wait list there to get notified when we're rolling it out. Also on social, we're at WagerWire on Twitter. That's our main one, and we're going to be spinning up our Instagram and TikTok as well at the same handles. And then personally, you can find me, Zach Doctor. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm very accessible on LinkedIn. Anyone who wants to kind of talk more, hear the story, anything like that, that's probably the best place they could look me up.
I love it, man. That's awesome. I'll make sure everything's in the show notes for everyone. They can go check it out. But Zach, this has been absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate your time. Time is the only thing we don't get more of. So thank you and everybody listening for giving me a little bit of theirs. But Zach, man, appreciate it. Kudos,
Thanks
congratulations, and good luck with
Appreciate
everything,
having
dude.
me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Love it.
Bye.
No problem, man. Bye, everybody. Thank you.